He lived on the property. He started the museum when his wife got tired of him kind of bringing people into the house to see his collections in the bibelots, which he kept under the bed in shoeboxes, is what I've been told. So she said, "Why don't you build a museum?" And so that's what he did.
In the process, George built the original museum building, which is a grand folly based on Thai temples and Luton Ho in England. And I consider this building that we're in at the moment to be one of his biggest bibelots.
A bibelot, the definition we use, is small decorative object without a purpose. It's a 19th century French term. Now, you could also argue we would call things knickknacks or tchotchkes or dust catchers now, but we try not to use those words in association with our pieces, which are made out of gold and platinum and gemstones.
He was a designer to the stars. His chief talent was a perfect sense of proportion. He could take a jewel or a found object and put things together in just perfect proportions.
It was built to showcase his George's fine collection, which is the way, you know, many art museums start. But the wonderful thing about the Headley-Whitney that it's really made a complete 360, that now we do have a mission statement. We embrace all types of different forms of decorative arts.
It's nice that we are involving more people, and when you showcase people's exhibits or art, it brings them in, and I think that also speaks to the transition that we are making to showcase more of our local artists and artisans.
And contemporary artists. The two exhibits we met, the Troy exhibit and the Granger collection, also demonstrate the importance of the expansion of the museum. It would have been impossible for us before the expansion to hold exhibitions of that scale and value. And now we can hold them just as well as any other museum in the country.
It reminded me that we had that wonderful Jeweled Objects of Desire exhibit where we had the gold Monopoly board and the gold mailboxes and that the Smithsonian loaned us. I thought that was
And the interesting thing there was the curator who came from the Smithsonian accompanying the exhibit said it was the best installation that particular Smithsonian exhibit had ever had. It was over the top.
It was impressive.
Mundane grandeur.
People don't understand how close we are to Lexington. It is a beautiful drive. You're going through, as you said, the heart of horse country, and you get to the campus, and we've got 7 acres of gardens. The Mary Lou Whitney Garden behind this building is just stunning. And then you've got the main building, you've got the show grotto, and you've got the library and the jewel room.
And the landscape.
And the landscape. We are set in the midst of horse farms. Some of the most beautiful and expensive land in all of Kentucky surrounds us. And you can step outside the door and see a thoroughbred that may have won the Derby. And that opportunity doesn't happen often when you're talking about visiting a museum.
It is truly the most bucolic setting to be here. It's peaceful, and just to walk around the grounds in itself, I think, is worth the trip to the museum.
We have parking. We have parking, which...
You know, coming from Louisville, the drive down Old Frankfort Pike is magnificent no matter what time of the year. When we have an exhibit, they'll talk about these magnificent parties, derby parties that Mary Lou hosted, and you can see that in the dollhouse. You know, the pool area set up with tables for.
That was set up for the year that Princess Margaret came and was her guest at the Derby. So Decidedly, I think Mary Lou Whitney is one who needs to be acknowledged. And of course, it was when she brought the dollhouses to the museum that it became the Headley-Whitney Museum.
The dollhouses. They're replicas of this house and replicas of all the houses here on this hill. And they were Cornelia's dollhouses, or daughter. And she and her friends would come and play them. And then she became too old for dollhouses. Then after that, we went around the country to different museums and raised money for things that had to do with children, children's museums or things of that sort. And they became very popular. And so we got back with all this. George said, why not put these dollhouses in my museum, in the Headley Museum? And so Sonny said, wonderful. Happily, Sonny built room for the dollhouses at the Headley-Whitney Museum.
So these will be a record of a way of life in the future, which is a three-dimensional record rather than just looking at pictures in a book.
Walk in, it's a room covered in seashells. You're probably not going to be finding any natural seashells here in Kentucky because it's a landlocked state. And so it's just so unique, it's unexpected, and it's just a work of art in its own right.
It was George's garage. The first thing, he hung a beautiful wrought iron chandelier in the garage. And then the chandelier was embellished with shells. And then the entire garage was enveloped, decorated with shells. And the cars were banished elsewhere.
Well, that's something I would love to see the museum board embrace is reopening the shell grotto, because it is, as you said, something people talk about and they come back and they bring their children and they want to show them the shell grotto, and that needs to be on the list of things to do in the future, because it's a very important part of this campus, I think. And it really is a fun building.
And what are your all's thoughts on maybe fundraising in the future or anything that...
This is the queen of the party.
I think we'll always have the
queen of the parties.
I think we'll always have the signature event that we have the Sunday after Derby, which is Brunch and Bibelots, and that's been going on, I think, 35 years now? What we appreciate anytime people contribute to the museum. I think what we would love to do is to get to the point, though, that our programs begin to help sustain the costs of the museum. All charities will always have to raise money, and that is the good news, bad news. You are always surprised where money comes from, and that's one of the nice things about being involved in a charity. Then you're also always surprised at the cost it takes to run a museum.
George left us with a lot to take care of.
He absolutely did.
I think George would like to be remembered as someone who really honored those who create beauty and his legacy goes on to support those who continue to create beauty.
To me, there is nothing more interesting than somebody who has a story to tell. And George was one who did, and he told it not only through the way he lived, but through the jewels he created and the museum he created. And we are reaping the benefit.
I think the Headley-Whitney, the great thing about it is that it is truly a jewel in the heart of the bluegrass.
George made everything more beautiful in this world. That was George. Every day he awakened, he had a smile on his face. And you'd like to make everything and everyone beautiful. He made things come to life. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It'd be something you remembered. The Fabergé of this era. One of the great jewelry designers of the world. And it was a privilege for me to know him. He was my best friend.